One thing that's quite notable about the Empty Child and Dr. Dance's episodes is that there's quite a heavy use, especially for that time, of kind of special effects, like the big CGI London, the kind of special effects used kind of on the mask and the masks coming like out of people's faces. Were there a lot of scenes where you in particular had to act against special effects, and was that particularly challenging?
Yes, the time where we had to sort of take that into consideration and was acting when there wasn't anything there is in the last scene, when they're sort of when Christopher Eccleston is trying to get the gas mask off me, and I'm sure you guys would probably be able to correct me if I'm wrong, but the nano bites or something like that, the little yellow things, those things were all flying around, and I can remember they sort of said to me like this, just look around as if you're sort of really shocked. So I'm sort of looking around with my mouth open and staring into absolutely nothing. But that was the only time that I really that there was anything that was I was sort of acting when there wasn't necessarily anything there. But that was good fun actually, that last scene.
You mentioned just now that obviously in that scene you were acting with Christopher Eccleston, and you had scenes with him and Billy Piper. And I can't remember, did you have scenes with John Barrowman as well?
Yes, there was a scene where there may have been more, but one that I distinctly recollect is when I think we're in like a hospital of some sort, or a big building, and John Barrowman, Billy Piper, and Christopher Eccleston are on the other side of, and there's a polystyrene sort of cut out there, and they said to me that I need to bang through this polystyrene cutout, and obviously when it was the original take, it was it was actually a brick wall there that I was banging through, and once I banged through that, there was all on the other side of that wall.
So did you interact with any of those kind of three, still to this day, pretty big actors? Much kind of in between takes or anything?
Yeah, a little bit. Obviously, we was all doing. Billy Piper especially. When we was doing our sort of hair and makeup, she was next to me quite a lot of the time. Getting her hair and makeup done. I can't remember so much with John Barrowman as such. I remember my dad actually saying, obviously he was taking me up back and forth to Cardiff, and I can remember he said to me that there was a few nights where once they'd finished filming, I'd be tucked up in bed and he'd go out for a few beers then in the hotel with Christopher Eccleston.
No way.
Yeah, obviously, where I was a little bit younger, it's one of them things where I've not really got much interest in talking to adults. You know what I mean? So.
Oh, that's fantastic. We do have a couple of fan questions to end it on. Juliet wants to know, is your role in Doctor Who your go-to icebreaker when meeting new people?
Do you know what? I'm very sort of humble in that respect. I am very little people, or a small amount of my friends actually even know. I mean, if I've known people for a sort of long time and it comes up in conversation or something like that, or one of my other friends maybe tell them. But I mean, I was just talking to a couple of my friends earlier, and I mentioned that I'm going to be doing this podcast, and I said, I've got a podcast to do later, and he said, a podcast? What's that for? I was like, for Doctor Who. He's like, Doctor Who? I was like, yeah, from when I was younger. He was like, what? You was in Doctor Who? And he literally didn't have a clue that I was in Doctor Who, and he jumped straight on Google, sort of seeing, looking at my episode and stuff like that. So, yeah, and with regards to that, as I say, I don't really, it's not something that I tend to not boast about, because it's probably the wrong word, but it's just not something that I necessarily, bring up in conversation as such, really.
Yeah. Warren wants to know, there's a lot of children in this episode. It's one of the only episodes of the first season that features a lot of kids, actually. Warren wants to know, what was it like? Was there a good treatment of the kids? Did you get to spend time with the other children on the set?
Do you know what? I didn't actually, to be honest. No, I mean, obviously I see them around on set, but I think where my particular role was very much sort of independent and isolated from everyone else. I wasn't necessarily sort of hanging around with the other kids on set that much. I mean, as I say, I was definitely sort of seeing them about and stuff, but I wasn't necessarily sort of interacting with many people on set apart from my yellow jacket. That was about it, really.
Wow.
I feel like we need to find the yellow jacket more than we need to find the gas mask.
It's out there somewhere. It's got to be digged out somewhere.
And our final fan question is one from Bianca, which asks, do you remember what direction you were given for the role?
I mean, I know I've said it before, but where it was such a sort of, there wasn't necessarily much to it. It was more of a case of just sort of, right, you sort of stand there and then, say sort of this line, and then if you want to come over there, put your hand on the window. And actually, I remember now. I think about that. I remember when I was going back to when I was saying about the building there actually just being like a wooden frame. I can remember when I put my hand on that window, it was like a plastic film, and I remember I was putting my hand on the window and I was pushing too hard, and I kept pushing the sort of window and it was bending in, and I was like, no, just sort of touch it very softly so it doesn't bend and break. Yeah, it was as I say, where it's quite a sort of straightforward role as such, it was more of a case of just sort of do this.
It's very kind of
do it really
practical. Yeah.
Sorry?
It was very practical direction.
Yeah, of course. It was literally just, point and do, basically. Do you know what? One thing is actually quite another scenario that was actually quite funny. That again, it's just coming to my head in the last scene with Christopher Eccleston, and he's climbing on the bomb. I've just taken my in fact, I might have just been before taking my mask off. He climbs on the bomb, and he's climbing up these steps, and he's literally just flew the whole way off it. Banged his shin on the steps on the way down, and we're out of action for a good half hour whilst he's sitting there sort of recovering. But yeah, that was a it sort of wasn't funny at the time, but it was, you're able to laugh a bit after.
Falling over for Eccleston seems like a reoccurring thing. When he was doing Hamlet,
you know what? He's a lovely bloke, Christopher Eccleston. Yeah, he's a great actor, and I remember him being a really nice chap on set. He's a nice guy.
I know his opening night of Hamlet, he fell off the stage during that as well.
Really?
So, yes.
Well, there you go. He must have a tendency of falling off things.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Albert. It's been